So this one's not specifically about Dragongate itself, it's just more of a rant. This is in my podcast category, but I do highly recommend watching instead of just listening because there is a very distinct visual component to it. And just to cut this off at the past, before you come at me, tech bros and AI supporters, yes, there are practical applications for AI. Yes, there are isolated ways where it's been used well. This ain't it. YouTube's new inspiration feature is maybe the sloppiest AI slop I've seen yet. I'm an abomination! The topics are not trendy, the suggestions and descriptions are flat out wrong or just outdated, thumbnails are utterly ridiculous. And before you ask, no, I'm not actually using the feature to generate this content because I'd rather not drain a lake in California somewhere. This content is already there when I click the tab, so I'm not even generating it. And I almost want to say that it's funny and kind of fascinating, but at the same time, it's also horrible. And the fact that it exists while being this broken is just, it's so egregious to me as a content creator. And even if it worked, it would still be, replacing people like me. It would be replacing originality and art. And that's something that I am very against. So let's take a look at what AI thinks Dragongate actually is and what content it thinks you want. So first up, it suggested the best Dragongate matches you've never seen, which I don't like insinuating that people have never seen anything, because people have always seen this stuff. But just the way it does this, is that a Q? Matches you'd never seen. Okay, first of all, who the hell are these people? None of them look Japanese. This guy's legs just kind of disappear. They're all just kind of weirdly floating. I don't know what the hell this guy's supposed to be. And what's going on with your hand, bud? You're going to see a lot of that in this. Just like, it doesn't seem to understand limbs or number of fingers. Look at this guy's hand. Okay, so here's where you get two things. One, that it doesn't understand that Dragongate doesn't mean literal dragons. And two, that all of the wrestling that it depicts looks like it comes from WWE. Which, I understand why, but it's still very inaccurate. This one at least kind of understands that it's lucha-based because it has the masks, but it's still, there's limbs coming out of nowhere. There's monstrosities of torsos, and I don't even know what some of these things are. What is this thing? I don't even know. And whatever the hell's going on here, it's a mess. It doesn't even look good. I don't know who this is for, because even if I was going to make the video it suggested, why would I use this thumbnail? It's not even wrong information, it's just nothing. This guy's apparently magically appearing through a portal, and he's got too many legs, too many arms, and just, again, why would I use this? Here you've got a literal dragon, which I don't know what's going on with the chest here. It doesn't really look like anything, unless it's like a dragon wearing a dragon t-shirt. I don't know what that's, I don't even know what's going on with that. And here's the first of many weird belts that it designed for me. I don't know what any of these shapes are supposed to be. It's the Dragongate Championship. To be fair, the Triangle Gate does have a typo on it, but that's an ESL thing. These high-top shoes stomping through glass, okay, sure, why? This is a bizarre one because it's a bunch of wrestlers being sucked into a portal. I don't know what's going on with this guy's mouth here. This guy's apparently eating spaghetti. It's one of those things where if you glance at it briefly for a second, it looks like it kind of might be something, but the longer you look at it, the more you realize it's just an absolute freak show. This was another suggestion, the 2025 Dragongate Summer Tour. What to expect? What to expect in the Summer Tour? See, okay, so the Summer Tour, not a thing in Dragongate. This color scheme and design is approaching something kind of cool, but it's still just sloppy nonsense because there's no rhyme or reason to it. And then down here you've got the whatever this is, and hey, apparently Just Tap Out is involved in this. This is just wrestlers making random poses on these like weird swirls in the background. This guy's a monstrosity of hair. This guy's face is trying to escape his head. There's this thing which is some kind of Silent Hill monster, and then you've got the leg arms and the weird limbs coming out of nowhere. This one I thought was really weird because it was clearly patterned after the old Universal title design, but the text can be read either way up, so it doesn't even understand what the orientation is supposed to be for this. Because it understands what the object is, but it doesn't understand the function of it. And then there's this weird gloved hand that's kind of grabbing it from nowhere. I don't even know what it's clutching onto. Who could forget the time that the Mortal Kombat symbol descended upon the screaming fans? There's the writing here that doesn't mean anything. Another thing you'll see in this a lot is inconsistent turnbuckles and ropes. The far end of it looks like it only has 3. The rest have
those 4 ropes.
And, there's turnbuckles on the near side, but then there's the big kick pads in the back corners. This one, I don't even know, man. It's like if Japan was Game of Thrones, and then there's a limb and hair monstrosity in the ring. I have no words. It's such a bizarre thing. And, again, this is a suggested thumbnail on a video. Have you ever seen a thumbnail look like this before? It's also not accurate geography, because Japan does look vaguely like that, but not quite, just like human bodies look vaguely like that, but not quite. Ah yes, who could forget the WWE Dragongate, Chompgate. I don't know what this symbol's supposed to mean, don't know what any of this is supposed to be. This one is just the creature at the end of Annihilation. Cool movie, no notes. I guess this one's the sequel of that previous one with the dragon that was hovering above the crowd. Would be nice if Dragongate could sell at a stadium like this. Basically, this is a Rammstein concert, and this is apparently a dystopian future where WWE and Dragongate have merged. No thank you on that one. Also, everyone in this entire cyberpunk future city is vaping at the same time, apparently. Oh, and to complete the trilogy, here is the dragon just carrying a WWE belt. Because why not, right? And the thing about this is, you see this part down here that's kind of a portal that you could, I guess you could say it's a gate. So it's a dragon coming through a gate, and it's wrestling, I guess. This is another WWE Dragongate. Just an absolute mess of what it thinks title belts look like. Here's another one where it knows that lucha masks are involved, but it's still got those like super deformed kinds of this weird snake limb this guy's got, whatever this is. It can't understand arms and legs, and it doesn't understand any sort of biology, really. This is probably the least offensive one so far, just because it's like, okay, interesting designs for some masks, but not any recognizable ones that I know of. And it's just some floating luchador heads, who cares? It's irrelevant. Dragongate, sure. 2 very sleepy looking amateur wrestlers. This, I guess you could put this as like a little icon on maybe a training school in North America or something like that. I don't know. It's not anything. This one was funny because it was for a suggested topic about Eta, and you can see the top half of Eta's name at the bottom of the thumbnail here. But that's not Eta, and none of these are Eta, and none of these are anyone, really. But apparently he's the king of Dragongate. This one you got more leg arms, more weird torsos out of nowhere. They just slap symbols on things. This guy apparently stole one of Yosuke Santamaria's tops. I don't know what the hell this eldritch horror thing is in the background. And then you've got the WWE Dragongate Champion. What I thought was interesting about this one wasn't the belt itself, it was the kind of distressed backdrop. Thought that was at least interesting looking. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but kind of a cool, rough pattern. You start seeing the more fantasy-based ones. They're just a straight up dragon eye, dragons fighting. I don't know why these guys are battling amongst a bunch of sparks. There's literally 2 dragons wrestling. This one looks like if Pac had a dragon head and a tail. Man, I don't know what to tell you about that one. Pretty much more of the same here. There's like a magic door in the woods. I don't know what that's supposed to be. And then another example of AI just not getting what a ring is and what ring ropes do. There's too many on this side, and this one's just broken and hovering. Here's where it gets interesting, because you start getting things like tabletop fantasy maps and knights holding swords, though this guy's apparently holding his big energy sword straight through his head. But I think Dragongate it's vaguely a fantasy term, so I think it runs with that a little bit, but I don't know why there's one of those Google Maps icons in the middle of this one. Drop a pin to show where you are in the fantasy realm of Dragongate. And you get more of that here. I thought this was interesting because it's literally a dragon and a gate. Some of these are leaning more into the whole Game of Thrones aesthetic. And here's where you start getting into text. And I want to talk about the inaccuracies of it, because there's stuff like the Rise of the Young Lions. They're not called Young Lions. It's Dragongate Future. The Story of Dragongate, a timeline. Do you know how long that would take me and how much effort I would have to put into that to do the entire story of Dragongate in a timeline? I mean, just that Ultimo Dragon video took me months. Here's a human pyramid with a dragon on top. Here's where we start getting into really weird details, because it's inaccurate. If I was producing this content, I would be lying to you, because this is all made up. The evolution of Dragongate's tag team division, the impact of legendary duos like the Blood Warriors, that was not a duo, that was a full unit, highlighting their key rivalries with teams like the Warriors and the Muscle Outlaws. None of those were together at the same time, and Blood Warriors actually came out of Warriors. The World 1 faction and their dominance in the early 2000s. It wasn't even Dragongate in the early 2000s, it was Toryumon. And then you get stuff like the Open the Brave Gate tag team title, which does not exist and has never existed. Here's an interesting thing for a couple of reasons, because it talks about, introducing key factions and their rivalries. The Tribe, which has never been a unit. There was Tribe Vanguard, but there was never the Tribe versus Natural Vibes. And I do think it's interesting that it suggests talking about the rivalry between RED and Masquerade, because it's sourcing information from my own channel, and one of my most popular videos is still my Masquerade documentary, which talked about that feud. So it's asking me to do what? To do another video about the same content? And then here's something that would be just, I guess, false advertising if I actually said it. Where to watch Dragongate, streaming services like Wrestle Universe. Nope, it's not on Wrestle Universe. And then again, you've got the Trios division and the first generation of six-man tag teams such as Do-Fixer and Muscle Outlaws. Nope, that was most certainly not the first generation of six-man tag teams in the Trios division. I mean, if you squint, you could say that mentioning that M2K was an iconic Trios team, but they kept adding members pretty steadily. And again, that was in Toryumon. Now here's a really weird one, and I don't know where it pulls this from, because it's just flat out wrong. The legendary rivalry of Shima, Masato Yoshino, and Dragon Kid versus Naruki Doi, Shingo Takagi, and Gama. None of these were ever in the same unit at the same time. Doi, Takagi, and Gama were all in Blood Generation at one time or another, but Shima was also part of that, and he kicked out Gama, if my memory serves. I haven't watched that era of Dragongate in quite a while, but I do know that this entire line is bullshit. Blood Warriors versus M2K, nope. The impact of foreign talent like El Generico and BB Hulk, not a foreign talent, BB Hulk. El Generico, I mean, saying the impact of them on the six-man tag division, which, no. This is a wild one. The tag team of Do-Fixer, Shima and Masaki Mochizuki, nope. And the Real Blood, which was never a tag team, Dragon Kid and Ryo Sai, I assume they mean Ryo Saito. Blood Generation consisting of Dragon Kid, Ryo Sai, and Masato Yoshino. The Legend, another completely made-up unit, composed of Masaki Mochizuki, Shingo Takagi, and Yutaka Yoshida. I had to look up that name. That is a J1 League footballer. The World's Strongest Trio? Nope. Naruki Doi, Masato Yoshino, and Gama? No. No, absolutely not. The team of the Brave Gate? That's a belt, not a team. KZ and T-Hawk? Nope. The modern era of tag teams, you know those current teams like the Strong Bones, Yamato and Kaito Ishikawa, who's an anime voice actor. And when I looked up that name in Google and put wrestler after it, it literally said he is not a wrestler. This is Google's AI telling me that YouTube's AI isn't telling the truth. And they're owned by the same company. Great product you got there, guys. World's Strongest Trio versus Blood Generation? No. The Dragongate versus the Strongbones? No. I don't even know where that's coming from, because there's never been a unit that even has the word bones in it. The founding members of the Blood Warriors, Shima, Masato Yoshino, and Naruki Doi? No. The key victory of Blood Warriors and their win over Dewfixer at Dead or Alive 2003. Dead or Alive was not a pay-per-view until 2008, and in 2003 the company was still Toryumon. And again, Blood Warriors versus Dewfixer and Muscle Outlaw. And again, this mentions Real Blood, which is Yoshino and Doi. I don't know why they would call Speed Muscle Real Blood. World 1 was not Shima and Ryo Saito. At least it completed Sairyo's name this time. Innovative tag team units like The Earth, Gama, Genki Horiguchi, and Kness. No guys. There was no team called The Earth. The peak of Dragongate's tag team division, particularly during the Open the Bravegate era, 2007 to 2011. Nope. Intense rivalries between Real Blood and World 1, The Earth, and Muscle Outlaw. Again, who is this for? It's not for me. It's not for you. It's not for anybody. It's just nothing. Here's the thing. There is a feature where you can correct these things, where you can say it's bad information and you can add details to the prompt. The thing is, I am the content creator. I am also the consumer of the product. I am not doing your homework for you. I am not fixing your broken, expensive technology that you are wedging into every single app we use. But I will say that it is a human's job to do that. But you're trying to replace humans. And if I were to actually use this content, it would be used to train more inaccurate content. So I don't even understand what it's trying to do here. More inaccuracies here. The tag team division's landscape shifted with the arrival of new talents such as Dragongate and Berserk. KZ, Eita, and Yosuke Santamaria. Nope. And here's just something that's weirdly outdated. The current tag team landscape, focusing on the dominant teams like Dragongate, Berserk, and Maximum, Mochizuki, Shun Skywalker, and Kaito Ishida. No, that was never a thing. You've got the impact of the Open the Gate tournament. Just not even using a descriptor there, just opening the gate, huh? The future of the 3.0. Okay, that's a tag team I never thought I'd see in Dragongate, but okay, sure. Could use some daddy magic. The new breed versus the veterans. That's really not a thing. I mean, there's like Mochizuki Dojo, but they're not really feuding with Paradox. The rise of the Ultimate faction, that's not a thing. This one made me laugh, though. The emergence of young talents like Dragon Kid and Ultimo Dragon Jr. Oh yes, the young, pushing 50 Dragon Kid and Ultimo Dragon Jr., who does not exist. The continued development of the established stars like Benkei and Kaito Ishida. Ishida has not been here for a while. The impact of the recent The Story of Dragongate documentary. I mean, close, it was called This is Dragongate, but again, that would be an inaccuracy if I told you that's what it was. The impact of the recent partnership with Pro Wrestling Noah. They did a show a couple years ago, but there's no partnership. The impact of iconic teams like Dewfixer, Blood Warriors, and the emergence of the Dragongate team. Sure, there was Dragongate Generation, but there's no way that's what it's talking about. Exploring signature tag team matches and rivalries of the era, including the Dreamgate match. Oh yeah, just the one Dreamgate match. Okay. The arrival of the new generation. Why is that in quotes? Emergence of teams like World 1 and the Real Blood Warriors. Okay, it's conflating a bunch of things here, like the whole new Hazard, Real Hazard, but it keeps coming back to that whole Real Blood thing. The rise of teams like Berserk, Maximum, and Dragongate. The impact of new generation stars like Naruki Doi, Masaki Mochizuki, and BB Hulk. Oh yeah, Masaki Mochizuki, that new generation star who was active for several years before even Toryumon was a thing. And again, the new generation featuring talents like Naruki Doi and Masaki Mochizuki. No. Rivalry between World 1 and the Real Blood Warriors. No. Exploring the impact of the Bravegate division and how it became a breeding ground for new tag team talent, exemplified by teams like Don Fuji and Kness. Oh yes, the team of Don Fuji. I mean, the closest thing I can think of is that time Ben K decided to be his own tag team partner, but no. This is where it just gets baffling. Atomicos, the newest unit in Dragongate, is taking the wrestling world by storm. This video analyzes their recent 8-man tag team match, showcasing the unit's unique style and potential for future dominance. Atomicos is an 8-man tag team style in Mexico. Atomicos is the hottest new unit in Dragongate, but can they handle the pressure of an 8-man tag team match? I should hope so, considering that's the name of the style. Introduce the Atomicos unit. The unit consists of Yuta, the strongest Uchida. I had to look this up, is an MMA fighter. Kaito Ishida, Kaito Naito. Who? Jason Lee, BB Hulk, and Eita. What? Like, where does it pull this stuff from? I do not understand this. And now we've got stuff like the evolution of the Open the Dragongate title. Creation of the Open the Dragongate title in 2002. I don't know what they're talking about. That was still Toryumon. It's the first title holder Shima and his impact on the title's early legacy. They're not even talking about the Ultimate Dragon Gym Championship. The emergence of Dragon Kid, Masato Yoshino, and the rise of the Generation Next era in Dragongate. Generation Next had 2 matches in 2006, defending the Ring of Honor tag team titles. That's literally it. Apparently it also thinks that Dragon Kid and Masato Yoshino had a huge rivalry over the Open the Dragongate title. And then international stars like Naruki Doi and Shingo Takagi. International from where exactly? Oh yeah, you remember the Blood Wars era? When Dragongate went hardcore? What? Continued international appeal with the rise of wrestlers like KZ, Eita, and Dragon Kid's return to active competition in 2023. My guy, he never went away. The emergence of the new generation of talent and potential for the title to be held by stars like Mochi and Ultimo Dragon. Oh yeah, that new generation of Mochi and Ultimo Dragon. The only 2 who were there before Toryumon. Just come on. So that's just the kind of weird stuff that this comes up with. I don't get it. I don't understand who it's for. I don't understand why anyone would use it, because it's not accurate. It doesn't work. It's just nothing. It's not even close to being anything. It's literally nothing. And my personal theory is that the reason they're going all in on it is because it's a sunken cost thing. They can't admit that it's a failure. And, like I said at the beginning, there are practical applications for it, but that's not what they're using it for. They're using it for shitty art and search results that don't even work and give inaccurate information from very dubious sources. So I think they just couldn't admit that they either sent it out too early or that, hey, maybe the bubble's gonna burst really soon on this. Anyway, like I said, this is something that I don't understand why people use, because its aim, its purpose, is to replace content creators with machines. So why would content creators actively try to replace themselves? It's probably the biggest grift in history, and I hope you don't fall for it. I am certainly not going to use it. And, all these tech bros and all these moguls and these CEOs keep saying, oh, it's going to replace teachers and it's going to replace artists. And those are not the jobs I want replaced. Those aren't the jobs anyone wants replaced. It's the menial tasks that should be replaced. The stuff that nobody wants to do. But even then, it's not like the labor force is that strong and that we have too many job options. And meanwhile, it's screwing up power grids and drinking water. I wish there was a way to turn it off. If somebody came up with a software, the only use of AI that I could get on board with is something that instinctively hunts down other AI and kills it so that I don't have to use it. But anyway, again, this isn't really Dragongate related, but it was a little experiment on my part just to see what this stuff actually would do if I was using it. And it turns out the answer to that is crap. It's all just nonsensical crap. So I'm not falling for it. I hope you're not falling for it. Stop using it where you can. I know it's kind of unavoidable these days, but maybe eventually they'll pivot their focus onto actual practical applications instead of trying to eliminate jobs that we actually need people to do. As for me, I don't have much on the slate right now for this month, but I will be doing a Kobe World preview for July, and then Eden and I should be back with another roster assessment. we wanted to start doing that twice a year. That'll probably be a shorter one. It probably won't be a big 4-part series again because there's less to talk about because we already established a lot of it, and some of the people haven't really changed since then. As long as I don't drive myself nuts by editing things, because I am editing a lot of stuff right now. I'm genuinely not sure what the rest of the year is going to bring, because Dragongate is kind of in a really weird period right now where a lot of their regular venues are being renovated or being torn down. A lot of things are in flux right now. For me as well, because if you follow me on social media, you know that I have left the previous promotion that I was working for the last 2 years. I'm now freelancing for multiple companies now. So that's keeping me busy because a lot of companies run shows around here. But I'm also available for additional work, so if you happen to know of an indie that can put their footage online and I don't necessarily have to be there at the show to collect it. I also have dual citizenship. I'm a dual Canadian-American citizen, so if you happen to know of any indies that need video editing work, I am available for pretty much whatever, and my rates are flexible. So that is my shameless self-promotion segment. Otherwise, over the summer, I may go back and try to do some unit retrospectives for my archives playlist. I'm not sure if I'll have time yet, but at the very least, you're going to be seeing the Kobe World Preview and another Normal About Dragongate podcast with Eden. And then beyond that, it'll be Dangerous Gate in August, so I'll have a preview for that too. So that's all I've got on the slate so far. Be on the lookout for that. If I come up with any other kind of content and the mood strikes me for something, like this one was fairly spontaneous. So as usual, it's going to be whatever I come up with. I don't usually do requests because I like to put the effort into things that I'm passionate about. I'm not sponsored. YouTube has allowed me to monetize, but they're still giving me the runaround for the actual approval process, which is painstakingly long, which is kind of hilarious because they're shoveling so much money into this AI slop that this podcast is about. So that's going to be my summer, and I will see you around. Thanks for listening.